Welcome to PropTech Pulse, the podcast that takes the pulse of prop technology in multifamily. I'm your host, Shelly Robinson, and each week we'll be diving deep into innovations, challenges, and the future of work in property technology and multifamily. From AI-driven property management to blockchain and real estate, we're here to explore how technology is reshaping the way we live, work, and invest in multifamily communities. Whether you're a property manager, a tech entrepreneur, an executive, or even simply curious about the future of living spaces, PropTech Pulse is your weekly dose of insights and inspiration. So let's sync our rhythms and get on with the show. It's time to take the pulse. Welcome to the podcast. Today I have with me Remen. Remen, welcome to PropTech Pulse.
Thank you so much, Shelly. Really excited to be here.
I always enjoy conversations with you. So when you agreed to come on the podcast, I was excited because you have a bevy of knowledge in the industry for PropTech and multifamily. So I think it'll be a good conversation today.
Yeah, that's really pumped.
Awesome. Well, why don't you tell our listeners kind of your journey of what's brought you to this point today?
Totally. Yeah. So I will say that I am very much an accidental PropTech founder. I do not have a real estate background. My parents were not developers or like in construction or whatnot. Really, my journey to PropTech started from more general SaaS tech. I was a product manager at HubSpot for about 3 years. And while there, I decided I really wanted to start a company. And I was able to rope in another fellow HubSpot PM to join me in that pursuit. Now, coming from Boston, where we both live, the big, one of the things we both experienced directly was frustration around rent payments. So for both of us, we had the experience of having multiple roommates. And for those multiple roommates, a landlord who demanded a single check be mailed to them. We each had different approaches to solving that problem. None of them were particularly good. So for our big idea, we initially came together and launched a company called RentDrop, which focused on rent payments, where our innovation was we could also mail out checks to landlords who didn't want to collect digitally. So we left HubSpot in August of 2021, working on that rent payment idea, which we did for about 9 months. And unfortunately, we learned a few hard truths about the payment business. So one, it's a low margin, high fixed cost business, and you really need a lot of volume before the math will make sense, unless you're charging on a per transaction basis, which led me to point number 2, which is that for that payment business, because a lot of renters, if they weren't using our product, they could mail checks, use Venmo, use Zelle, sort of like there were so many alternatives to what we were offering. We found that we didn't really have much ability to command a price for the service we were delivering. And everything really came to a head when one day we saw that we had a few tens of thousands of dollars of fraudulent payments running through our platform, and that we just had to eat once the bank chargebacks came through. And so at that point, we're like, okay, this payment business is done. We got to figure out something else. That then led a period of exploration, really summer of 2022. And, I remember we were sitting in a co-working space and we were trying to throw ideas on a whiteboard. And one of the ideas I wrote down was Plaid for X. So if you're not familiar with Plaid, Plaid is this API product that allows people to connect their whatever fintech app they want to use directly to their bank account to pull out transaction details. Yeah. So because we had just come out of the rent payment space, the X that was top of mind was property management software. We started digging in and we quickly realized that there was so much pain around building integrations into property management software, maintaining those integrations, and just navigating the entire process. And that wasn't just pain limited to early stage startups. Very large, very mature companies were experiencing the very same things. So we decided to quickly switch gears and approach that opportunity. And really at that point, everything fell into place. Within 2 months, we had a couple of very large LOIs signed with some leading PropTechs. Month 3, we were able to get a customer to actually pay us to build a product that did not yet exist. And it was around that time we were accepted into Y Combinator for this idea. We raised our seed round December of that year, and we haven't looked back since.
I love founder stories, especially, maybe it's counterintuitive, but especially when you run into like problems and then you don't give up. Like to me, that I'm hearing this story of you ran into some potential areas where you could have given up, but instead you even leaned in further and really figured out a deep problem in the industry. It's a known issue.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. And I think that it's one of those challenges that we, as much as I love the business we're in now, but I do have to give credit where credit's due. Had we not done the original rent payment idea, I don't know if we would have ever even seen or gotten a whiff of the problem that we're now sort of attacking.
It's so true, and pivoting is so important when you see an opportunity as an entrepreneur. You know, you have to be willing to say this isn't working anymore, but this could work, and then get everybody in line with that. And as someone who's been in multifamily for a really long time, and the clients I work with too, you're really solving for a level of pain and discomfort in the industry that wasn't standardized in any way. And I'm so glad you're working on that. Really, really exciting. And it is complex in multifamily. Lots. And I think, this kind of leads me, what is the average number of software applications and platforms that the average property management company uses? That's one use case alone, right? I've heard things like 20 or even more than 20.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard 15 and 20, 25 plus. And once again, I think that that's only if you decide to limit your purview to prop tech rather than technology that you also want to connect to your property management system, which should go well beyond what you would traditionally define as prop tech. So some of the really, really big operators, actually, I had a conversation with an NMHC top 25 owner, and that gentleman said, yeah, that we have 300 different applications that plug into our Yardi instance.
Wow. And that is that. I mean, I believe it. I do believe it. Yeah, we are not limited as an industry just to prop tech solutions. So that makes a lot of sense. And working with a lot of groups entering the prop tech space too that really don't know the landscape of working with APIs and integrations in the industry has its own nuances as well. So there's a huge demand for that.
Oh, 100%. I think that one of the things that we see from a very interesting vantage point, as for many companies who are coming into multifamily, they're similar to us. Yeah. They have a cool idea, and that idea happens to be serving multifamily or the rental industry, but they don't really know the landscape. A lot of times they're coming to us assuming that integrations in multifam is going to look a lot like integrations in other industries. So, let me paint the picture. I mentioned I was a product manager at HubSpot. HubSpot has 1,800, actually more than 1,800 integrations in its app marketplace.
Wow.
And for those 1,800 integrations, integrating is completely free. You get full API access from day one. And there's a massive team in-house at HubSpot of product managers, software engineers, customer support that are all dedicated to trying to optimize and streamline the integration experience, not just for the customers who are going to use those integrations and apps, but actually for the vendors that they're trying to make sure are wildly successful with their integrations. And I think if we were to contrast that with what you see in a lot of the property management systems today, the amount of investment in the team that's going to support a prop tech trying to build an integration, I mean, it's orders of magnitude smaller. And then that's not to even mention the fact that you're oftentimes going to get charged for those integrations. So it's just a very different model for a lot of folks who are coming in from, let's say, general technology and then trying to understand what integrating is going to look like once they arrive in multifamily.
I did a LinkedIn post today that was on that combination right now of there's deep industry expertise and there's a lot of fresh people coming into the industry that have outside expertise. And I think you absolutely need both. The hard part is if you're not relying on some deep expertise to reduce those costly mistakes that happen by not understanding that industry landscape. So,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like one of the horror stories that I see repeat time and again is what I like to call the integration chicken or egg problem. So PropTech comes in with a cool idea. They've actually built the product already, but they have a customer who says, "We can't work with you until you integrate with insert name of property management system." They then go through that property management system, ask to integrate, and they say, we can't work with you until you prove you have a customer who's willing to work with you. You have a customer that is a shared customer and is going to beta your integration. They don't want to, this company is a new early stage startup. They don't want to go to this customer and say, like, will you please not just buy our software, but be our beta customer for this very software? Like, because like they don't have any trust.
Yeah, it's chicken and egg, right? It's like I need the egg or I need the chicken first, and then there's that friction that's there in trying to get the deal closed. I have some clients that definitely run into that as well, trying to get that product market fit and the trust at the same time as trying to build out integrations that are required to even sell it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what it ends up doing is just raising the barrier and the bar for outside people who are trying to bring innovations in. It's a lot easier to get a reference client if you have been in multifamily for quite a while, you know a lot of people in the industry, and there you have someone you can just email who will say, like, yeah, I'll sign off. Because what a lot of people don't realize is oftentimes that beta test client thing, it's not like a super deep amount of commitment. They just need to be able to say, like, yeah, I've used it and it works. Like it can be pretty small, but if you don't know that, you're like, oh no, I have to find someone who's really willing to dig into the nitty gritty of my product.
Yep.
Then it feels real. It feels like the stakes are a lot higher on both sides.
That's really good advice today to those listening in that may be in that position. That's get that minimal viable product going and get that minimal viable integration worked through. So that's really, really good advice. Before we kind of move into the deeper parts of the podcast, I always kind of ask a couple future in a bottle questions. You have a very unique purview, especially working across owners, operators, technology companies. What do you kind of see are the top three things changing in PropTech in the next 5 years, and why?
Wow. Okay. Top three changes that are coming. So probably the first one, and I'm going to sound like every multifamily conference for the past 3+ years, AI is coming. But I actually want to hone in on the specific innovation that I think is really going to be transformative, because there have been AI chatbots in this industry for so many years now. I think everyone can probably name like 5 or so off the top of their head. But what I think the actual transformative change here is going to be not just AI chatbots, but rather fully agentic AI, where it's beyond the leasing flow. You're going to start seeing this in maintenance. You're going to be seeing this in invoice processing, really a whole set of both front office and back office tasks that are really going to free up either centralized or on-site staff to focus on delivering value in ways that really do require like a in-person human interaction. And just like, I think that is going to be a massive force multiplier for a lot of multifamily groups. But I think that the other transformation baked in that is the change in pricing. So if you look at Funnel, they had a recent announcement about their Phoenix AI.
Yeah.
That was a big headline. If you read it a little bit further down, one of the other things they mentioned is that they were going to be focusing on pricing not based on dollars per unit per month, but instead based on outcomes. So how many chats is this bot resolving? Is it getting customers down the leasing funnel, paying for success rather than paying for how large your portfolio happens to be? That to me is disruptive, because when I see that, what I look at is a generation of PropTechs that are currently in the industry who have built their business around charging for like scale. And there's now a new opportunity for PropTechs to be arriving in who can then charge not based on scale, but for delivering results. And if they're really good at delivering results and they're really efficient in that process, the ROI is going to be extremely obvious to everyone. So the risk, I think, for incumbents in this situation is like, well, to what extent do they have to self-disrupt and potentially try to shift to a similar kind of pricing versus maintaining the status quo?
Mm-hmm. It gets into themes I'm hearing across clients where they're like, I want to know exactly what I'm getting for my software decisions. And if I can't make it make financial sense of whether it's efficiency or cost savings, or I can actually track to a cost per lease or cost per acquisition, then I'm looking at tossing it. So I think you're spot on. And then there's a PMS system that's coming out that's freemium. And I'm like, that's disruptive too. And I did see that funnel announcement. I'm like, this is going to be fun to watch. Really fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like I think that there's going to be some shakeups coming, and I suspect that as these, I mean, if we now push the like, what are the other trends you're asking?
Yeah.
Separate from just AI prop tech, I think that the impact of AI on sort of like how companies in the industry are developing features and capabilities cannot be understated. It is easier than ever for a really small team to build a product that works and using AI. It's then really straightforward for that same team to use AI to do a lot of automated outreach at scale with heavy degrees of customization. So the how big a team needs to be in order to get to $1 million of ARR, 5 million, 10 million is going to continually decline. And the amount of like capital as a result that is required to get them to like a Series A, Series B milestones also going to drop. So I
Yeah.
think that like those two forces coming together mean that it's just a really like ripe time for companies to come in, find a problem, knock it out of the park, and be able to scale probably a bit faster than they would have 2, 3, even 4 years ago.
It should allow smaller owners and owner operators to actually be more agile and compete as well, which traditionally you couldn't get all of the bells and whistles truly unless you had a lot of complexity and the staff to run it. So that's also, I think, going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, and I think that would probably be like my third prediction. I've had conversations over the last 6 or so months with, at this point, probably like 3 or 4 new property management groups. They've been capitalized with like 100 million or so dollars, and their strategy is they want to be a roll-up vehicle. They want to go buy subscale managers, build up a portfolio that number is in the 50, 75, 100,000 units, but aggressively use AI and other supporting technology from day one to completely change the cost profile of property management at scale with a wide regional or national portfolio. And I think that that is something I think is going to be fascinating because like all this competition, it's not just limited to tech companies who are vying for the dollars of property managers and owners. It's actually going to extend to the property managers who now are saying we can do so much more with so much less staff.
Yeah.
Do the margins of property management start approaching a software company? Like
Yeah.
I've spoken to PropTech founders who are adamant that they think that they can get gross margins in property management to be like 70+%. If that is the case, holy crud, that is going to be a really, really big transformation.
I think you're spot on, and there are a lot of conversations right now too with all of this opportunity of technology is to kind of get back to the roots. And this dates me significantly, but when I first got into property management as a property manager, I wasn't a package manager. I wasn't, there's all these other hats that everybody's been forced to wear in on-site operations over the years. And clearing that plate again for high level service is a differentiator, and technology that helps free up that time is really going to win, delivering that high value service, not disrupting service, so that you can have people delivering that high level service. So
Yeah, 100%.
do you think work is going to change in multifamily in the next 5 years? What do you think? What do you think on that topic?
Yes, because I think that more to varying extents. I suspect almost all multifamily groups are going to be adopting AI to support some or most functions in the organization. And with that, if you sort of pull that string a little bit, the knock-on effect is for the human staff who are going to be supplemented and augmented with these AI tools, like as you said, like this is a human business, this is a services business. Like the people stuff matters. And these AI tools are going to free up people to do more of the people stuff that is going to be differentiated, and really help the brand of the property shine, or the brand of that community shine through. So I think that what's also then going to happen is the skills that you're looking for from from site team members is going to shift. If in the current world, getting really comfortable with the property management system and 5 or 7 different tools was like the requirement, if going forward, a lot of this is like large, completely automated by an agent, and all you're really doing is checking at the end of the day what the results look like, that technical proficiency becomes a lot less important, but your ability to just engage, be a human, be someone that the residents love, and is going to be a part and be like really an additive value contributor to that community, that site, or that centralized team. I think that is going to be a big shift, and property managers are likely going to start hiring differently because they don't need as much of that technical stuff. They need people who can be really good people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think the workforce that's coming into the industry as well, if we want to attract that talent, our technology needs to deliver that Amazon easy button experience or your Domino's pizza. And I hate to refer to those, but in reality, they've got a service experience nailed on both sides. So I think that's also going to be demanded in order to staff the industry. I also heard you say something that I think is important for prop tech companies is speaking in a service language that fits the brand of each customer. When I worked at Prometheus Real Estate Group, they have their own branded lingo. And I think a lot of companies are moving. They want that brand to come through in that service experience. So making your language learning models flexible is also important, just as a little tip I heard in there with what you were saying.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that brand consistency, that's AI is very, very, very good at ingesting a bunch of training data and saying, now I'm going to spit out stuff that sounds exactly like this from here going forward.
No, that's so true.
Yeah.
Are there any case studies that you have, and you can keep it anonymous, that you've worked on integration implementation or a project that you kind of want to talk about that significantly improved efficiency for the industry or for a client or a vendor?
Yeah. If we were to sort of look through the clients we work with, one of the companies I think has been a really nice success win, both for themselves as well as for the customers they're serving, is a group called ResPage. They offer various leasing relating tools, including AI chat, website design and marketing services, reputation management, really a broad array of capabilities. So for ResPage, this is a company that's been in the industry for 22 years. They are not a startup. They are a tech company, not a startup.
Yeah.
But one of the things that they were experiencing was that, over those 22 years, they had built integrations into almost every single property management system in multifamily that you could think of. But what they were finding was that those integrations had all been built over several years. And because of those integrations had been built over multiple years by different individuals for each integration, you fast forward to today, it was when everything would break. And when things would break, it was like very hard to tell what was going on because there was no shared understanding for the people who were being tasked with maintaining them on a go-forward basis. So when they came to us, they looked at our unified API and they said, oh my goodness, this is an amazing opportunity to standardize and provide transparency with a unified framework that is going to allow us to integrate into PMS A, B, C, D, E in the same consistent manner. So we worked really closely with them, sort of like building out some of their use cases, and then ultimately onboarding in about 6 months, 1,700 properties.
Wow.
1,700.
That's a lot.
And it was massive. We had never done anything quite like that before. But I think that what was really, really great to see was the results, because once we had built out their use case, 90% reduction in time required to go live with a new integration. In the old world, that was a 3.5 month process. In the new world, it's a week and a half. So it's like, for them, the amount of care and planning when you have to get deep into the weeds of every property management system just went away when they had a single set of documentation to work from. Similar kind of result, 80% reduction in time to deploy bug fixes. So this is just a company that's been around for a while that now has it's almost like you're playing Mario Kart and you get like a speed boost. It's like they were just able to move so much faster because we were giving them a more solid platform to run from.
That is an awesome story. And I think about very measurable ways to track those efficiency savings over time, which kind of leads me into my next question is, what is your advice that you would give to PropTech companies or multifamily companies that may be trying to figure out if they should consider working with a third party like yourself, and kind of what do you weigh? How do you approach it? Where to start? What would you say?
Yeah, that is a really good question. So what I always like to tell people is for most companies, oftentimes their integrations aren't going to be necessarily what they deem as the strategic part of what they do. Oftentimes they are getting paid by their customers because they have a product that has some features. And it's the delivery of those features that gets them paid. The integration is largely a box checking exercise at the end of the day, where it's like the client is demanding that if you don't integrate our data, then we won't move forward with you. So it's like, if you sort of say like, hey, our integrations, it's something that we have to do, so it's important, but it's not going to be the thing that differentiates us from the other company that does the exact same thing, then the question becomes, well, if you have a standardized framework for launching new integrations, therefore speeding up your time to market, as well as reducing ongoing maintenance costs, because everything sort of just works in a very similar way, and there's a lot of additional infrastructure tools for you to deploy, like, how do you quantify that value? And is that a trade-off that your team wants to make? You know, when I think about this a lot, like, let's say the difference between like Apple and Google, Apple controls every aspect of their supply chain. Google is more willing to make everything modular. Now, they're both are really big, really successful companies, but it's way, way more expensive to build Apple products than it is to build Google products. Yeah. So it's really a strategic choice for every organization to align on, based on the resourcing, based on how fast they want to move and the time they want to get certain goals knocked out in. What is a strategy that actually makes the most sense?
Those are really good things to think about. And if it's not your bread and butter to work on integrations either, it takes you away from the main part of your business and slows you down. So it's a good consideration. Are you headed to Apartmentalize this year? You going to the?
I will be at Apartmentalize. I'm looking forward to it. I ended up missing last year's edition due to a wedding out of the country. So I'm packed. I've already packed my bags for Vegas. So it feels like this year there's a lot of Vegas conferences, I've noticed.
I think there has to be other locations, but I don't know if you've been seeing the news on like Vegas tourism taking a hit this year. So I think they're trying to get as many corporate gigs in Vegas to stimulate the economy there, I think is the strategy.
Yeah, it's I feel like every year I can usually count on one. It feels like this year between Apartmentalize and OpTech and Blueprint, and there was Retcon earlier. Like, it feels like everyone has just sort of decided that this is the Vegas year.
It is. It's a very Vegas year indeed. Well, I will see you there, and I really appreciate you coming on the podcast today. We'll make sure to link to you on the podcast so everybody can check you out and take a look at Propexo as well. But thank you so much and appreciate your time.
Shelley, it was an absolute treat. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Have a good one. And that wraps up another episode of PropTech Pulse. I hope this conversation has given you valuable insights and perhaps even sparked some ideas for your own PropTech journey. Remember, the future of multifamily is being written right now with every technological advance and innovative solution. So stay curious, stay connected, and keep your finger on the pulse of PropTech. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to PropTech Pulse on your favorite podcast platform and share this along with your colleagues. You can also find us on social media for bite-sized insights and updates. I'm Shelley Robinson, and until next time, let's keep innovating, disrupting, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in PropTech and multifamily. Let's build it together.